Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the UBC Learning Circle, hosted by the Center for Excellence in Indigenous Health. I'm very pleased and excited to be welcoming Denise Findlay back to the circle today. Joining her are some, well, I'll let them introduce themselves later, but they're from the Nenqayni Wellness Center, and they're going to discuss gathering our medicine as a program and the sort of impact that it's had on them and their community. So I'm very excited. We were actually just discussing before we went live here that Denise has been coming back to the circle since like 2013. So I'm very excited today. Before we proceed forward, I would like to acknowledge that I'm zooming in from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Hunkaminam-speaking Musqueam people. I would also like to acknowledge the First Nations Health Authority for generously funding the UBC Learning Circle, allowing us to have conversations like this. A quick trigger warning before we kind of jump into it here. Sometimes, the conversations that we have, the things that we bring up can be emotionally salient. They can be triggering for individuals. If that's you for today, please make sure that you're looking after yourself. Access your support networks, whatever that's going to look like for you. If it's talking to a friend or an elder or a family member or a counselor, please don't hesitate to do so. So I'm going to introduce myself briefly, and then I'm just going to pass the mic over to our elder Bill here to start us off in a good way. My name is Cole. I'm from the Chawatha First Nation. I'll be facilitating the session today. Other Learning Circle team members in the room are Cynthia, our production coordinator, and Winona, our program assistant. And if you feel so inclined, please don't hesitate to introduce yourself in the chat box, and we'll kind of get the questions and the comments rolling in there as well. I think I was able to do that in like 50 seconds. Elder Bill, can you please start us off?
Thank you very much, Cole. I'm very honored to be here today. I want to start off in a good way today, so it's an honor for me to be here. So I want to honor you all in a good way. So I'll start off by singing the honor song for all of you. At this time, I'll offer up a prayer to everybody. Creator, grandmothers, and grandfathers from four sacred directions, we give you our thanks for allowing us to be here today, to join each other We ask, Creator, that you watch over each and every one of our families in a good way on this day. Heal them. Take care of those that are sick. Take care of those that are still out on the streets. Give them the food and shelter that they need to survive on these cold days. We think of those that are suffering on this day, Creator. Heal them. We ask, Creator, that you fill us with wisdom on this day as we come together in a good way in this learning circle. Cook Shem, all my relations.
Thank you, Elder Bill. That was beautiful. Thank you. So without further ado, I think I'm going to pass the mic over to Denise. I think you're going to get us started, eh?
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Hafsquile, Tinsna, Denise. My name is Denise. I'm very proudly speaking to you from my village of Hamulchison on the sacred unceded territory of the Squamish people, of which I belong. And I'm so fortunate to be able to live and work here in this beautiful place and to raise my boys here. It's just my pleasure to be back again here with everybody. And this time, just to share some really exciting sort of new developments in the work we've been doing, and to have Marla and Angie and Bill here with us today to share that. So yeah, I can't wait to get into it. I'll give Marla and Angie and Bill a chance to introduce themselves, and then we can dive in.
Go ahead, Tanze and Neen. Hello, everybody. My name is Marla Klassen, and I want to acknowledge that I'm joining you between Treaty 2 and Treaty 5 territory, right between the beautiful shores of Lake Winnipeg and Lake Manitoba. I'm just delighted to be joining you all today. I'm thrilled to be speaking to this subject matter, which is just the closest to my heart. I want to start right now and go on, but I'm going to temper myself a bit because I want to hear from Angie and Bill.
Hi, my name is Angie Bernoulli. I have the honor of working and playing in the traditional unceded territory of the Carrier, Tukwalton, and Shuswap people. I work for Nenqayni Wellness Center. It's people of the land, and we have a family and youth program there. And we've been able to pair with Denise and have incredible measures of success and results with the program Gathering Our Medicine. And I'm delighted to be here to share with you today how it's changed not only our staff and our families, but our community members and our community at large. So thank you for having us.
Welcome, everybody. My name's William Ansell. Come to you from Williams Lake, Reawakening territory. I'm very glad to be here today to spread a little bit of knowledge about Gathering Our Medicine. Beautiful way of bringing our people back to each other. And yeah, I've got so much to say about it, but I'll just hold off for now. So thank you for allowing me to be here, Coach Jim.
Thanks, everybody, for that introduction. Yeah, so and maybe we'll talk, I'll just share a little bit about the journey over the last year, and then we'll bring up a couple of slides and look at the approach. So about a year ago, I was asked by the province to work on what was going to be a parenting program that was rooted in Indigenous ways of knowing and being, because there is a huge gap here in terms of what's out there. The things that people were trying, and you'll hear that from Angie and Bill, just weren't working. And so having a background in developmental psychology and the impacts of trauma, and an educational background, and my whole lived experience really came to the fore in putting this together. There was a request there, but I was really able to draw on my entire lived experience and all of my education to synthesize this. And what's really interesting about Gathering Our Medicine is that I knew there was something that flowed through me that told me what was needed, but it's now in retrospect, after having facilitated 6 pilots in this province, in different communities throughout the province, and working very closely with facilitators, elders, and knowledge keepers in these communities to facilitate the program, that we're realizing there's so much more to this, and that what we've really got here is a relational model of care that can really guide the work that's being done, and to create that paradigm shift from those more. I'm really trying to be, in my scholarship, I'm undertaking a PhD right now. I guess I should say that too. And so I'm really looking at the relationship between science and wisdom, and how do we start to integrate these two worlds, like the Western and the Indigenous knowledge systems, in a way that where there's practical implications for us, where we can see clearly what it is that is needed. And I love what Indigenous scholar Manu Meyer says. She says, science is good, but it's best understood with an ancient mind. And so that's really what we've done with Gathering Our Medicine, is we've got these theoretical frameworks rooted in scientific evidence, but we're not leading with the science. We're leading with the culture, and we're leading with the wisdom and the knowledge of the people and place in which the program's being delivered. And we've had these astonishing results. It's been such a delight to watch the development and the growth unfold, and the warmth and the involvement of the elders. And I can't say enough about it. And I'm trying to figure out, where do we go? Because there's so many things to talk about, and the complexities, and we're still really unpacking it. But it's really a paradigm shift. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. And it's a universal program, which means it shapes to the culture of community. It's not a deterministic sort of prepackaged thing where it's like, this is how it's done. Each community takes the program and makes it their own. And that's the beauty of it.
I'm excited, Denise, to speak to the distinctions between where sort of the model that many of us, that I certainly came from, in terms of it being somewhat deterministic, in terms of managing behavior. My background is in counseling, and I worked for many years in the school systems as a counselor with quite a different model than what Gathering Our Medicine is rooted in. And it didn't go that well. It didn't go that well for the kids in our care. We certainly were trying, and we were trying with really beautiful intentions, but we had this idea of managing behavior, and it didn't lead to a lot of emotional movement, healing, supporting families. It quite often led to the opposite. And so I am excited to sort of dive a bit into those distinctions today, so we can tease that apart a little bit.
I think, when we consider and reflect on the history of colonization and the impacts of residential school, one of the biggest harms done was the relationship between families and children, and parents and children. And we can still see today in our systems of care, whether that be education system, mental health system, or medical system, we continue to often extricate kids out of the care of their natural village of relationships and put them into the care of so-called trained experts, or we bring the trained experts in as the answer. And so a lot of what we're doing, a large part of what we're doing, is we're shifting to an approach that turns the care back into the hands of parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles. We're saying you don't need to be a trained expert to care. And I think that when we look at our mental health system, we know for a fact, the statistics tell us that our mental health, the prevailing approach to mental health and even education, is not working for our kids. It's not working for our youth. It's not working for our families. And at some point in our history, care was shifted into the hands of experts, and care is the most natural thing in the world to provide. And so how do we restore care? How do we truly start to care for each other again, knowing that this is so instinctive, and that culture absolutely supports togetherness and supports caring? when Elder Bill sang this morning and said those words, what I could feel is him bringing us into connection and into relationship with each other and within our ecology. And there's something really, really important that happens when we honor our cultures, when we invite our elders and knowledge keepers to provide this kind of care. Something really important happens that I think if our eyes aren't open to it, we can miss it. And it is so fundamental. Marla, do you want to add anything to that?
Just moving it. Yeah, let's unpack that piece a little bit, because Denise is talking about relationship, about a context of relationship, and about beginning with relationship, drawing into relationship, and always returning to relationship, which is a different approach than caring out of a role. And that is the model in which we've been really meshed in for many decades now. That because I have this title, these letters behind my name, this education, this title on my door, that is the context in which I can offer care. But it turns out that children and youth, and really any of us, don't heal within that context unless it's relationally supported.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And so one of the things we like to unpack whenever we're introducing Gathering Our Medicine into community is that we look at all of the different kinds of ways we can become trained as helpers in the mainstream prevailing approach to mental health. Now, when you Google, this is a third of the list of different kinds of training you can get to be considered a legitimate helper, so that you can occupy a role as a helper. And the list goes on. Now, what's really interesting about this is that the research tells us pretty definitively that it's not the modality or the thing that we're trained in that has healing take place. It is actually the relationship between two people that facilitates a healing response. And that could be anybody. And it often is people like grandparents or aunts or uncles or someone in our own circle of influence that is able to establish a connection which is emotionally safe for us. And so it's about recognizing we can't lead with our role, we can't lead with our skills, and we can't lead with our training. This is so intrinsic to Indigenous epistemology and Indigenous ways of knowing and being. We are relational. We are part and consider ourselves part of a larger ecology that includes not only our family and community, but the world around us in terms of the land and the animals and the spirit world, that you cannot treat or approach healing from this more objectifying, deterministic standpoint of a role, and I have skills and I'm going to do something to make something happen without considering the importance of being inside of that ecology with each other. And so that's really what Gathering Our Medicine is, this journey of what my elders have always, told me about, like not samat, one heart, one mind, but a journey from the head to the heart. Now, it's okay to have skills and training. I have lots of skills and training. I just told you I'm getting my PhD, but that doesn't mean that I am going to be the answer for every single person. But it does mean I'm the answer for my own children and the kids in my sphere of influence and the people I'm in relationship with. Go ahead, Marla.
It's just, it's beautiful because it's not the PhD that gives Denise this context of being in a relationship. It's because she understands relationship, because she understands that context of our very essence of who we are as people. Yeah. That is the context.
Yeah. So before we go to the next slide, because we want to differentiate, a role-based, practice-based approach. What we see is the prevailing approach to healing in the mental health system. We want to contrast that with what we've done in gathering our medicine. That's really, really important. And know that the experience we've had in the pilots in the province and talking about gathering our medicine and slowly leading people through these understandings is quite an emotional journey on a whole bunch of different levels. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But it's all about being in relationship. Relationship, we know without a doubt, there's all kinds of evidence here that tells us that we cannot grow, we cannot recover, we cannot heal unless the conditions of safety in relationship are present. And so we can have all the skills in the world. If we cannot invite people into a safe relationship, then we cannot help. There's no context for helping. And we all have the capacity for this. Every single one of us, regardless of who we are and what our training is. But we really want, Cynthia, can you go to the next slide? What we're really doing here is we're facilitating a restoration of care in community. We're shifting. In our pilots, we have facilitators, elders, and knowledge keepers working together. And sometimes the facilitators, they may or may not be community members. They may be social workers. They may be counselors. They come with different professional backgrounds in the helping field. But what's really important in this regard is that they are in relationship with elders and knowledge keepers in the community who are facilitating provision of care to our parents and to our youth and to the people who come to the circles. So we're leading with the wisdom, we're leading with the culture. And underneath, the facilitator knows here's what's really important in terms of, the conditions required for healing. How do we create that over and over and over again? So this is the model for, I guess you could call it, I think what we're realizing is that this is an alternative relational model of care that we've created that can guide, we can build a parenting program out of this model, but it can guide the practice of helpers. It can guide and you'll hear Angie and Bill talk about that they trained everyone in their wellness center to start thinking this way and to interact this way, and they got phenomenal results. But when we think about traditional healing practices, they're distinct and culturally specific to the people who are practicing them. And we look to the family, community, and ecology as being most naturally equipped to provide care in the context of relationship. So we really have to know our people. And we really have to know the ways of being of our people, because we all crave that connection. We have a deep longing for our people and the ways of our people. And this in and of itself is therapeutic. And so it's this beautiful, Marla, do you have anything to add? And then maybe we'll just unpack the schematic a little bit.
No, let's go ahead with that, because I'm getting excited to hear from Angie and Bill so that they can flesh out what this looked like for them.
So am I. Yeah. So we're going to talk about the model, and then Angie and Bill are going to tell you all about their lived experience and their journey introducing the program and facilitating this way of being in their own community. So at the center of the model, what you'll see is the heart of the community, the heart of the child, the heart of the parents. And you'll see these three theoretical frameworks that inform us. And so we're looking, the scientific aspects that are in the background that are informing us are attachment theory, the science of resilience, and the science of feeling, or what we call affective neuroscience. And that's informing what we're doing here, but it's not leading what we're doing. It's kind of in the background. Good to know, but actually don't need to know it to provide what is needed, which is really, that's the paradox. Good to know, and we want our facilitators to know this, but an elder doesn't need to know any of this. They just do what they do, and they provide beautifully care and restoration of relationships and connection to the land and the cultural teachings. It's all very spontaneous and natural, but the theoretical frameworks are in the center. You see the village of relationships, the togetherness, surrounding and wrapped around the heart. And so these are all the people in the village of connection. All of the people that are responsible for caring or the care of our children. And that includes, like I said, parents, grandparents, surrogates, aunts, uncles, siblings, cousins, teachers, coaches, helping professionals. It's anybody and everybody. And we need to be standing in that circle, and our relationship with each other needs to be incredibly strong in order to do the work that needs to be done, restoring care to communities, because of the horrendous damage that's been done intergenerationally that we can see. We just have to look around to know that we have a long way to go yet here. But this is a way through. I truly believe that this is a way through, that this offers such a powerful alternative to what we've been doing over the past however many years. The 4 words on the outside, these are our knowledge systems. This is what informs everything that we do. These are found universally in all Indigenous cultures throughout the world and throughout history. The kinship circle, the wisdom of our elders and our knowledge keepers, the ancestors and that blood memory and that ancestral memory and knowledge, and nature and the land and the animals. These are all places where we access knowing and knowledge about what is important and what is needed. But Marla pointed out something really important to me the other day that I could have missed. And she said, these are all ways of providing a sense of continuity and relationship and connection and togetherness in the face of a world where we're confronted with so much separation and so much loss. And this is the beauty of our Indigenous knowledges, is that they provide us with a sense of continuity and connection and attachment and safety, regardless of what life sends our way. It's really important. It goes so much beyond what we're taught about attachment theory in the baby bonding sense, in the more Western, I'll say Western tradition of that. Attachment is so much bigger than that for us. And then around the outside, it's all contained within the cultural rituals of the people. And these are place-based. And so it's not prescriptive. And this is where the program shapes to the community it's being delivered in. And this is really powerful because this is the container that has to be there for any of these other things to take place. It has to be there. This is what we're leading with.
There's incredible healing just within that. There's an incredible potential for restoration here, because this is so fundamentally different than the violations that communities have experienced in the past, with experts coming in to heal or to share something that didn't fit culturally, that didn't fit in the community, that wasn't respectful of the family. This is a different approach. Every community, every family has its own culture. And this is honored within this model, so that it's supporting parents within the care of elders, within the care of this model, within the care of the land, the wisdom that was always there, the teachings that have come through the generations. So we have this cascading care flowing through the entire model.
I want to just highlight something before we pass the baton over to Angie and Bill, and that's that our families and our children have suffered great violations in the face of the education system, the medical system, and the mental health system. And our parents are asked to do things in the name of helping their children that go against every fiber of their being, and that deep ancestral knowing that is within them knows that sometimes what they're being asked to do feels completely unnatural. And so part of what we're doing here is we are reminding parents, we're reminding families and communities that deep within them, they have the answers. It's about reawakening this instinct to care, and that the experts actually, and it's not that we're knocking experts, there's a time and place for these things, but that's been the prevailing approach for too long, and it has displaced the people in our communities who know how to care for our kids and our children. And our youth need their families, they need their parents, their grandparents. I've been collecting a bunch of articles lately that have been coming out about, they're now discovering the role parents play, or grandparents play, like how important are grandparents in the lives of our children. And we're seeing this in the circles and in Gathering Our Medicine, where the elders are saying, I'm healing from this as well, as their place is being restored in the circle of things, in the circle of care.
That's beautiful. Thanks, Denise. I wanted to just say here briefly, so beautiful, this program, and I really love that last piece you talked about, reawakening and rediscovering, you know, creating a basis for which communities no longer need to import knowledge and expertise in something as innate as loving and caring the youth in our communities. I think it's so critical. Creating a platform for individuals, elders, grandparents, whoever it is, you know, to rediscover their innate capacities, both as individuals and as members of our communities and as practitioners of our culture, to be able to care for their youth. It's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing this.
Angie, do you want to take over, tell everyone a little bit about your amazing experience?
Yeah, so we can take the slide down or lead a bit up, it's okay. So I started working for Nenqayni Wellness Center, and one of my very first workshops that I was asked to do, one of my first duties, was to teach a parenting program. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of history of what happened there, and then I'll turn it over to Bill to share all the cultural knowledge that he has created this sacred space for our parents to join us. So I started teaching this program, and parents were late. They weren't engaging. They were looking down, were closed. Even when I tried engaging, it fell flat. And so at the end of the program, I asked the parents for feedback. And this one mother was so honest. She said, I'm not going to use what I heard. I'm not going to remember what I heard. She says, there's a man from the United States who knows nothing about me, a white man, nothing about my culture, nothing about my family, telling me about his gods and his beliefs. Says, I'm not going to remember this program. I'm going to remember it made me feel bad. I'm going to remember I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like coming, but there wasn't a lot I got from it. And that really stirred me, right? Because we're a wellness center. All the areas, all the quadrants of the wellness circle and the medicine wheel have to be met for growth. So I went to my health director and our executive director, and they're amazing at Nenqayni. They're always looking for best practices and Indigenous methodologies, and they're willing to grow. And just because we've had a program for a long time doesn't mean it's the program. So they encouraged me, find us something, bring us the research, find us something that feels more culturally relevant and safe. And so I went on the computer and, started researching, and I reached out to Marla and Denise, and they reached back. And we started a discussion, and it was like this moment, like this is it. And I started feeling really excited. And I reached out to Bill, and I showed him the schematic of the program, and I got everything together, and I brought it to my health director, and he said, open it up to the staff, see who wants to take it. And he encouraged us to run with it. And we didn't just open it up to counselors and coaches and people working directly within the community members and directly with the families. We opened it up to anyone in Nenqayni who wanted to take it. So our daycare workers, our weekend supervisors, evening custodial staff, coaches, counselors, anyone who wanted to be a part of it. And for those who couldn't be a part of it, we encouraged them to watch the recordings and hear the language and gain that knowledge. And something amazing began to happen right immediately, right after our first class. Staff was coming together and sharing how it made them feel. And our intake workers said, I wish there was something like this when I was a parent. This is amazing. And so right away, there was this buzz and connection and stirring within the staff. And so we finished the program and we went to start our pilot, but I chose to implement it in a couple of different ways with the staff at Nenqayni, who were incredible and just embraced the program. We initiated an elder share program with our youth program, using the language from Gathering Our Medicine, using the relationship building techniques from Gathering Our Medicine, using that attachment base and the importance of community and shared knowledge. And a few of the measures of success that we've seen, Nenqayni was established in 1983. And we always, when you have youth in a treatment center, there's AWOLs, and sometimes there's quite a high number of them. And when we started using this approach and this language and building these relationships and bringing in our elders to teach pine needle earrings and to share traditional knowledge, and not even like this is a class, we did it as, we're going to make dinner together and we're going to invite this elder for dinner and we're going to care for this elder. And then this elder's going to share with us and care for us. And it wasn't a class. You aren't learning pine needle building. It was an invitation. It was a chance to rest in the care and rest in relationship of our elders and our traditions and our knowledges. And two incredible things happened. One, in the 30-year history of Nenqayni, youth have never voluntarily wanted to come back to our program and do another round. We had 2 sets of young women who wanted to come back not only to work on their own grief and loss, but to come back as mentors and support the other youth coming in and go through the program again. And the second incredible measure of success is we had a 100% graduation rate from the youth program. And our AWOLs are almost non-existent. I work with the RCMP in Williams Lake, and I actually had a corporal come up to me and he's like, what's going on at Nenqayni? Like, you guys haven't called us at all. It's just not at all. And I'm like, nobody's running away. They want to be in relationship with us. They want to connect with us and they're wanting to be here. And through the continuing care and through the aftercare program, the youth are still reaching back. So that was one of the incredible measures of success. Well, that's more than one, but for the youth program. So we're not even teaching Gathering Our Medicine in the youth program. We're just using the language from it. We're using the idea of relationship. We're using the idea that you need to be in relationship with me and with this community and this with village of Nenqayni before we can start teaching, before we can start sharing. We need to build this relationship. And we did that by bringing in our elders and having these share dinners and bringing in this beautiful knowledge keeper, Dancing Water Sandy, and she brought jingle dresses and ribbon skirts and began to teach the dances. And another measure of success for me was the youth chose to put on the jingle dresses and in front of everyone at the grad ceremony danced a healing dance. These girls who were quiet and withdrawn and emotionally resistant were open and caring and connecting. And it was amazing. And our team all supported and they put on, you know, the ribbon skirts and we were all there with the girls. And it was just infectious, this program, this attachment, this relationship, not just for the youth and the community members, but for our whole team at Nenqayni. And I have an incredible team at Nenqayni. They're always right there, you know, let's do it. Yeah, you know, encouraging and communicating and sharing in this idea of attachment and relationship and having these. But the most incredible change was in the family program. So when we did this program, we had mother who had been separated from her children. We had single parents. We had couples come in, all from different aspects, coming in with major age range differences in the children. And the very first parenting program, you tell them you're going to have a parenting class, and you can see them. They're like, because something's wrong with me, I'm not good enough, you know, and they're in alarm, they get stirred, they're kind of resistant. And Bill created this circle, this knowledge sharing circle, and he built a sacred space for us. And he found sacred objects that had deep meaning and traditional meaning. And he created this table of objects to create this inviting environment, this safe space. And when we opened the doors to the parenting program, we didn't say, come on in, you're going to learn your schooling now. Bill, in his quiet way, said, I'm so glad you're here to share knowledge with us. This is going to be an incredible journey. And he welcomed everybody in with a song and with a prayer, and we smudged. And you saw all the parents who had been in alarm and been stirred just this collective release, this tangible sigh in the room, where we were suddenly not educators and parents who weren't good enough. It was a circle of healing, of sharing, of relationship. And so everyone came in, and we talked about setting our intention for the children we loved and setting our arrow towards that. And we all focused on it. And the parents listened to their hearts, and all the parents came back with, I want my child to be seen and heard and loved and safe. The same things we all want for ourselves, for our children. And it started a discussion, and Bill started us with a chuckle, talking about how he is as a parent compared to how he is as a grandparent, and how that shift changes. And we have that different connection and that sparkle in our eyes. And everybody could relate to that, whether they were a parent or not. They had grandparents, they had an uncle, they had a cookum, they had somebody who had that sparkle in their eye, who brought them into a relationship, who let them rest in their care, who made them feel that connection like they were special and safe. And right from that moment, the whole parenting program was different. The parents were waiting for us at the door. The parents were using the language. The parents were excitedly sharing the differences they were seeing. And the one day I had gotten held up at the youth building, and I was late, and the parents were waiting outside the door. They says, "Where were you? You're late. We're all here. Come on, come on." And they were excited to be there. They wanted to be there. It doesn't happen very often when you're teaching a parenting program. And the change we saw, not just us, but the staff, was incredible. As the parents came to rest in our care, the children's hearts softened and their eyes softened. And they started matchmaking with us through the parents, because we're safe. Their parents are seeing that we're safe and having a relationship with us. And so the children come on their own and start this relationship, shyly at first, and then more and more open. And they started calling Bill Grandpa Bill, Grandpa Bill, and really attaching to him. And we had this night where there was heightened emotion and an explosion of emotions. And I went to the children. I said, "Do you want to go outside and we'll howl at the moon and we'll talk and we'll share some stories?" And we went out. I said, we get angry. It's okay. Let's be angry. And we howled, and we chose the animals we were going to be. And it became a ritual, a nightly ritual, where more of the children asked to go for walks, and more of the children asked to go outside. And pretty soon all the children were coming for this evening walk. And the parents would say, "Oh, thank you so much. I had that downtime." And we had this, time to tidy up. And Bill smiled and he said, "That's what we're telling you. In the long ago, we were never alone. We were not meant to raise our children alone. We were meant to raise them in the safety of the village. And we're Nenqayni. We're people of the land, and we are your village. And so we're here. Reach out, talk to us." And these relationships began to build. And our daycare workers saw it change. They said, the parents were just dropping the kids off and picking them up. And now the mom came in and sat on the floor and played drums and helped that transition happen, where "I'm coming to get you. What have you done today? I have time to sit and play and be in relationship with you and transition you." And the parents weren't just dropping the children off and going to education. They were coming in and saying, "Take my coat. I will see you at lunch." And they were bridging that gap with their children, letting them know when the next point of contact would be. Really building and nurturing that attachment and that relationship. So the other staff were seeing it. And as we continued with these families and these journeys, one mother that I had the honor of working particularly close with really started advocating for herself and her children, and asking us who to reach out to, and doing the reaching out. And we were there for supporting, but she was driving the force forward. And I said to her, "I'm so impressed. It's amazing how fiercely you're advocating for your children and your family and for yourself." And she said to me, "I don't have all the answers. And that's okay. You guys have taught me that and shared that wisdom with me. But to my children, I am the answer. I will always be their answer." And that's what this village is. I don't know all the answers, but I'm going to reach out to my village. I'm going to reach out to my support workers. I'm going to reach out and create a safety plan. I don't have the answers, but for them, I am the answers. So I'm going to reach out to my village. And I phoned Denise. I think I phoned you or emailed you. I can't even remember. And then we had this talk, and I'm in tears. I'm like, "Oh my God," and Marla's crying, and we're all, because it was working. It was giving the power back where it belonged. That intuition, that idea of knowing, that sense of I am your mom and you are my children, and I will fearlessly love you and protect you. And that is the role I want to play, was put squarely back where it belonged, with the parent. And she did an incredible job. And she continues to do an incredible job with her children. And so do the other parents that have graduated from the program. The other measure of success we had is that parents have asked to come back. They want to come back to Nenqayni and take the program again. They're sharing the program within their own communities and encouraging people to look it up and join it. They're still reaching out to us. They want that continuing contact. They want that relationship to continue to build. And they're reaching out when they need help, and they're reaching out when they're having good days, and they're sharing with us the difference in their family and their community, not just with their own children, but how they're applying it within community. And they're advocating for their children beautifully. And so because we had the ability to run this program one-on-one, we had 8 weeks to watch the change. And now through our continuing care program, they continue to see the positive changes. And because I work in such an incredible environment, we had so much support from staff and our health director and our executive director and our knowledge keepers, that this whole village was speaking this language, and it made an incredible difference. My greatest measure of success for me personally was I reached out to one of the moms, and I got to tell you something. My daughter was asked to write a story for school about people who were important to her. And she wrote her story about Grandpa Bill the bear and the Sunshine Lady. And Grandpa Bear knew all the knowledge and he smudged, and the Sunshine Lady had all the love and she laughed. And there's no greater measure of success than to be immortalized in a child's memories and stories. And that's what this program does. It creates those relationships and those connections where children feel safe and they grow and they feel loved, and parents feel like they are the answer, and they are open and nurturing and understanding that this relationship is incredible. And so I'm going to turn it over to Bill, and we're going to bring up the slides, and Bill is going to explain all the knowledge and sacred teachings behind what we're sharing with our community members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angie. Gathering Our Medicine, a very wonderful program, because our people have always known that culture is healing. And this is what Gathering Our Medicine brings back. That our ways that we've always known about community-based teachings is the way that we need to get back to. And that's what Gathering Our Medicine does. You know, we always take our children, we hold them tight to us as parents. And then we have our grandparents that hold us. And then we have our communities that surround us, that help. We are never alone. No child should be raised by themselves. It takes a community to raise a child. And we've always known this. And this is what Gathering Our Medicine has brought back. Because our communities have been ripped apart. They've taken our grandparents and they've pulled them away from our parents and pulled them away from our children. With this, now we're bringing everything back to that circle of life. And Gathering Our Medicine is so powerful because of that connection. And once you show people how to reconnect with themselves and with their families, that door opens back up. You know, as Angie was saying, to be able to re-teach our community members how to look after their children, take care of them in a good way, how to communicate with them. It's all about being able to open yourself up and give yourself back. I myself, communication is the best thing ever, and showing them how to do this, how to play with their children, because a lot of us have got into this job situation where we get up in the morning, we get our children ready, we shove them out the door to school, we go on our way to work. We don't take that time to communicate. Just take that time to sit down with that child and play a game with them on the floor or read a book with them. Builds that bond. And once we get that bond, all these doors start to open up. All these feelings start to come out. We understand that communication line is open again. And the children start to tell us how they're feeling instead of shying away. If we're not there for our children's going to go elsewhere to look for that communication. And gathering our medicine brings us back to that line of communication we need with our children again, because we've lost that. And slowly we're beginning to bring that back. When we started off gathering our medicine, I was asked to set up a table, a safe environment for our community members. And I really thought about this from our people's perspective. So I'm going to ask a slide to be brought up of the table. I really thought about this really hard on what gathering our medicine means. It's all about community. In the middle, you've got the sage bowl that represents the morning. When we wake up, we smudge ourselves off. We cleanse our bodies off in a good way. The little feather above it and the drumstick represent our children. The 4 eagle feathers that surround our children are our parents and our communities. Around that, we have 4 commitment sticks that represent not only the community's commitment, but our parents' commitment to raising the child as one. It takes a community to raise our children. On the one side, we have a braid of sweetgrass and our tobacco ties that represent our medicine. And on the other side, we have a grandfather rock or sweat rock that represents Mother Earth. Or the grandfather rock has been with us for many, many generations. And then above that, we have a shell filled with water. For without water, we would not be alive. Water gives us life. And through the beginning of our ceremonies, we invite all our parents in. And I sing a song to welcome them into the safe space, to allow them to understand that we are there to help them in a good way. I'll share a prayer with them to let them know that I am no different than they are. I am here with them. We are here as one. We are no higher than they are or no lower than they are. We are at that same level. And this is why gathering our medicine works so well, because it puts everybody on that same line, that same communication. And the more that we as people understand this, the more that our people will come to communicate with each other and help each other in a good way. So Denise and Marla, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for this. You know, it's important that we relearn our ways from smudging to sweat lodge ceremonies to raising our children in the proper way. So thank you very much.
If you go to the next slide, we asked the parents how they wanted to celebrate the completion of the program. And they helped us create this beautiful bridge. And the children stood on one side of the bridge and the parents on the other, and they took the blankets and they walked across the bridge and they blanketed each of their children. And then the children gave them a gift that they had worked on, this plate with a picture of them doing some activity at Nenqayni, sledding or smudging, something they had been doing together. And the children gave the parents a gift, and they walked back across the bridge together as a family. And it was incredible to see the children standing there just lit up, they're looking at the parents, and the parents just glowing with their children. And as we sat before the ceremony, Bill started drumming and singing, and there was all these children, running around and active, and immediately they all came to sit with us. And we have this beautiful picture, and we can't put it up because we have to protect the identity of the children, but of them drumming. And then they hold up their drumsticks, and in unison, all the children right to the 1.5-year-old are holding up their drumstick. This connection to this culture, this sameness, the sense of belonging, all of the children had it. And all of the parents and all of the staff and this huge village of Nenqayni. But that moment was so telling when the children stood there and played the song on their drums at 1.5 years and raised that drumstick up. They were part of something. They were in relationship with something. They were attaching to their culture, and they were just beaming, these little ones. And so each of the parents received a certificate of completion in a letter. The children each received a blanket from the parents, and from Grandpa Bill a rubbing rock. From walking outside in our stories, he heard from the children what their favorite animals were. And so to bridge that gap until we're with them again, and we hear from them again, or even if we never do, they have that rock to rub and remember that they were special and they meant something to us and that they're incredible. And so it was a beautiful gift that Bill shared with each of the young people in our program. But the whole graduation, ending in ceremony, beginning in ritual, it acknowledges the ceremonies and rituals of growing that First Nation people had always had. There were ceremonies when a child is born. There are ceremonies when a child reaches adolescence. There are ceremonies in gathering our food. And part of gathering our medicine is that acknowledgement of the importance of ceremonies, the importance of ritual to acknowledge change and growth, the changing of the seasons, the changing of ourselves, that growth. And within the program, within the Gathering Our Medicine program, we talk about personal rituals. When you hear the words rituals, you think of a wedding or a ceremony, but those little things like having dinner together or reading a favorite story. Or one mom, she said, I wasn't being able to get the children to bed, so I started telling them the story of my kukum in the mountains. And every night I would tell a little bit of the story. And pretty soon the children's teeth were brushed and their pajamas were on, and they were sitting on her bed waiting for them, for that ritual and that connection and that story. And it became a nighttime ritual, a tradition. And Bill, we had a little fella who wouldn't sleep. He's about 1.5 years old, almost 2. And Bill started smudging with the little fella. And every night he would come and take Bill's hand and with his parents go into the unit and they would smudge the crib and smudge the bed. And the little one would smudge and he'd lie down to sleep. And every night the little one searched him out for that ritual and that sameness and that connection where he could rest in his care, knowing what was happening, knowing that transition. And it was beautiful. And the parents at grad said, well, we're leaving, but we're going to have to bring Grandpa Bill with us to continue this. And when I reached out to them afterwards, they said, you know, that he will go still get the smudge bowl. And this has become a ritual in our home. And we all feel it when we don't do it. And that's the importance of traditions and rituals, is that it connects us. It brings that sameness. It brings our ancestors into the now, the here and now. And we become a part of something bigger, and we've been loved through generations. And that cultural support is there, and that knowing who you are and that you belong to something. And so that's why gathering our medicine works, because the parents are the answers, the communities are the answers. For thousands of years, we knew to hold the baby close to us. And now they're selling baby kangaroo holders close to us. But we had those. First Nations mothers had those. They knew not to put the baby down and hold it. That intuition, that knowing, that being is there. And there's been a break in it through colonization in residential schools and the 60 sweep and the removing of the children. So awakening that knowledge, awakening that relationship, that's what we're doing. We're not telling you, this is how you parent. Saying this is how you've always known. That awakening of that love and that relationship and nurturing that. And just coming along as a wayfinder. Bill comes in with these traditional stories and shares just as a way, not do this. It's not prescriptive. It's not dictative. It's sharing of knowledges. It's coming into relationship. It's awakening this way of knowing and being that First Nations people and the village of First Nations people have known forever. And that's why there was such an attachment to it in our program. And now that they've left our program, that attachment is still there because it awakened that knowing and being. And it's with it. One of our elders told a story. She says, it's with that, with everything. When I make Christmas dinner, nobody wants Brussels sprouts. So one year I didn't make the Brussels sprouts. Everybody asked where the Brussels sprouts were. It's that connection to ritual and culture that builds us as a family and as a village. And that's why this program is working so beautifully. And it works cross-culturally. I'm European descent, I'm Italian, and I use those same ideas from that program with my children and with my grandchildren. And I saw a shift. You could take this program and you could use it preventatively in the land. You could take these ideas and go out on the land. Instead of waiting for a family to break down, we preventatively go in and we share these knowledges and wisdoms and bring our elders back into the circle. And now it's before the break happens, before the children are removed, that the village is coming together in relationship. We can make this we can add it as a prenatal program, as a single father's program. It's limitless because it isn't prescriptive. It's relationship. It's in relation. And the possibilities are endless for this program. And Denise and Marla have done an incredible job creating it and teaching it and sharing it with us. And I want to thank them.
Wow. Thank you both so much for sharing your experiences, your stories here with us today. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to circle back to Denise and Marla, if you had anything else you wanted to add. We have several questions that have come through the Q&A function. I have a few questions of my own, so we can jump into that. But I wanted to give you guys a chance to respond here before we do so.
I'm just moved every time I hear these stories, and I just want to acknowledge Bill and Angie for just who they are as human beings, and what they've been able to do with these understandings. And then they've done phenomenal job of, everything that we hoped and longed that this would result in has come to fruition in what Bill and Angie have done. And I just have so much respect for both of them. And I'm just so humbled because it's to be able to facilitate a return to, community-centered care care in the natural village of attachment is it's such a privilege, and it's incredibly humbling to do so. And it feels just like the most natural thing to do, and it needs to be done. So yeah, I thank you guys for all of that. And I feel very fulfilled at the moment.
I echo what Denise is saying. I want to acknowledge Angie and Bill. It's just epitomizes everything that Gathering Our Medicine is, and you can see just by even reading in the chat the relationship that exists between Angie and Bill and the people of Nenqayni. I want to acknowledge all of those people, because it's all in relationship that this is happening. So it just is such a living, breathing example of what the potential is. It is incredibly fulfilling.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you. So this first question I have is mostly towards Elder Bill and Angie, but feel free to jump in, Denise and Marla here as well. I wanted to expand on a point that Lisa mentioned regarding vast improvement in parents' relation to their children. We did see a community form between families where they could rely on each other in caring for their group of children. And I was just wondering if you wouldn't mind expanding on that piece a little bit, because one of the questions I had previously written down for myself was, what sort of changes did you see, between families? How do we, in addressing a lot of those community relationships amongst one another? Because I personally feel that that's kind of one of the big markers of difference in modern urban living, is that each family is so is a nucleus. It's so singular, and that it doesn't interact with its neighbors. I have a few nieces and nephews that live here in the city, and I go and talk to them, and they don't even know their neighbor's first name or anybody within their block, and it's a bit odd to me. So I just wanted to know if you could speak to that at all.
It was actually incredible. We started talking about being in villages and being in relationship, and everyone was sharing their stories in group. And as they would leave, the Gathering Our Medicine, they started reaching out to one another. Oh, you don't have any sugar? I have sugar. Oh, you don't know how to load the sewing machine bottom? I know how to do that. I know how to make masks. Oh, you don't know the song? I'll teach you the song. This is from my people, from my village. And all of a sudden, they were creating their own village within Nenqayni. These parents were supporting one another. The children were the most incredible, where the older children were coming in and supporting the younger ones and playing. And when they first came, the older brother was very, I'm going to do this, you listen. No. And by the time they left, in 8 weeks, Mom, let me get his milk. No, I got him. Come here, June. Come on, come with me, and taking him along with them. So we saw it within the families, the children helping tidy up, and Bill has a beautiful story about that, so I want you to share it. And helping the moms, but also them helping each other, and becoming this village within Nenqayni, and recognize, can you watch him while I run downstairs and get my laundry? Oh, sure, yeah. And just supporting one another in this beautiful relationship. So that was one of the major changes we did see within our families that were living at Nenqayni.
Yeah, the relationship building of our community members was outstanding. From the time that they arrived, as normal, all the families had their heads down. They really didn't want to be there. The kids were very disruptive, I'll put in a nice way, because kids are kids, and putting them in a new environment, they didn't want to be there. But as we moved along, you could see the change within inside themselves. Families helping other family members out, kids gathering together and being like a family, even though they're not siblings, helping each other. One day, it was just before supper time, and the kids went out and they had toys everywhere. I mean, there's Lego blocks spread out all over our circle. And 15 minutes before dinner time, I went out there and I said, okay, it's time to clean up. Well, our littlest one grabbed the box and he went out there and he started putting toys in the box, and pretty soon all the other ones were over there. And he, once it was all full, he grabbed the box. I was going to help him. He says, "No, no, I got this, Grandpa." And he drug it all the way back over to the bin and helped me put it in there. And he says, "Did I do a good job?" I said, "Yes, you did an awesome job. You are so good." You know, so the communication lines really opened up. And that's what gathering our medicine does. It shows our people how to recommunicate with each other on that same playing field. I'm no better than you are, you're no better than me. We are equal. And when you get down that line, it breaks the barriers all down. So it was very, very good to see. So thank you.
Wonderful. And kind of a follow-up question to that piece that I was just wondering was, you know, speaking from my own personal experiences and kind of anecdotal knowledge, I guess, I know a lot of grandparents and elders in as I said, modern living feel a little bit isolated or disconnected from the youth and their families and their communities. And I think one of the beautiful pieces of this program that I really, we can't stress enough is the equal caring, the reciprocal caring that happens, because allowing grandparents and elders to participate in that and build that relationship in a good way is healing and beautiful for them as well, or at least I think that it would be. So I was wondering, Elder Bill or Angie, could you speak to any of that? I know, Elder Bill, you were really involved, but Angie, you mentioned another elder, and I just wanted to know if you'd noticed any changes in the elders and the grandparents that were able to participate here.
So we have amazing elders at Nenqayni that come in, and they're just so full of wisdom and knowledge, and they know how to build relationships just with their being, their calm, wonderful being. And unfortunately, we've had to close the center due to COVID now. And I'm reaching out to our elders and connecting with them, and they're asking me how these families are that they met and the youth met, and they cannot wait to come back. They said, I didn't want it to be true. I didn't want the COVID to be true. I was so looking forward to coming in and engaging the youth. And it's so wonderful to be around those vibrant youth and those families. And so our elders are excited to come back. And our one elder that did come, she came and made a speech and a prayer at our grad. And she, on her own time, made pine needle medallions for each family and for each child and for each youth to hold on to remember her. Because what she said to the one youth, and I hope I repeat it correctly and honor her words, but she said, "You filled my heart. And as you go forward, I feel joy as you start this journey, because I feel like I was a part of that journey. And it changed me too." And she gave her this medallion, and she's this incredible elder that we all adore. And as we reach out to them, and we continue to reach out to our elders through Nenqayni, just to check on them for everything that's going on with COVID, they always mention coming back to the center. They always mention the youth and the families, and it's really awakened in them that want to connect and to share their traditions and knowledge. And so it's really beautiful, because we're not only seeing the impact it's having on our youth and our families, but our elders are excited to share their knowledge and to be a part of it. And so I'm just in awe every time they come, and so grateful that I get to be a part of it.
Can I add something to that piece that Angie's just speaking to? This is really a really important piece around healing and how that's changed in the approach of what many of us were trained in, this model of healing, and that we need to visit our wounds and need to do a lot of poking and prodding and healing before we can become the answer to another. And it turns out it's actually the opposite is true. And I think that's what we're seeing in gathering our medicine, that we don't need to be wholly healed from the hurts that we carry, even intergenerationally. It's becoming the answer to our own people, to our own parents, our own children, our own grandchildren, that a lot of our healing actually unfolds. That's that's quite different than the model that at least I was trained in.
Yeah, our elders really need to have that connection again. Like I was saying earlier, our people have lost that connection. And with our elders, we need to bring them back into that fold because it's important. Because all of our elders hold a significance to our people. They hold that knowledge. And if we don't connect with them, that knowledge gets lost. So it's important that our people learn to connect with our elders, and that's the great thing about gathering our medicine. It brings out that message. Reach out to your elders, connect with them, learn what they know, and the more that we do this, the more our lines grow, because that knowledge will be instilled within us then, and it'll get passed down that line as it should be. If we don't seek out our elders, that knowledge gets lost. So that's why gathering our medicine is so important, because it brings us back to that full circle again, whole. And that's where we need to be as a people. So thank you.
Powerful, powerful words. Thank you. Thank you all very much for your answers. We have a question from our community, and I think that this is more directed towards Denise and Marla, but we'll kind of see. How do you see this program expanding to reach the people who would benefit from it over the next few weeks or months or years? I guess kind of what's on the horizon, and my stipulation would be twofold. One, what's on the horizon for gathering our medicine as a program? How are we going to look to expand it? But then two, what's on the horizon for Nenqayni? Like, how are you guys planning on coming back after COVID, or what does that look like for you guys? So who would ever like to jump in first?
I can speak to that. I mean, first of all, it's moved really quickly. And my elders have always told me when something's right, spirit moves and it works really, really quickly. And so we're trying to sort of catch up with ourselves and build capacity to be able to do the work that needs to be done. And working with community to do that. So we did 6 pilots last year. Some of those facilitators were building, in the next year, we'll be building their capacity to sort of play the role that Marla and I have played. For instance, supporting Nenqayni to do their pilot, that like Angie and Bill would be able to support other communities in their area to run pilots, because part of how this works is there is some formal training that you go through, but then the training happens on the ground where we're walking alongside you as you actually put together a pilot and facilitate the program within the community. Like I said, Bill and Angie did it in person, others did it online, and we walked alongside of them. And it's a developmental process, and seeing facilitators and elders and knowledge keepers come together and watching the growth that naturally sort of unfolds in this process is such an honor to just be a witness to seeing this unfolding happen so very beautifully. But the idea this year is that we will be doing 3 regional facilitator trainings, and then we'll be looking at building capacity and doing some more pilots. And we're just sort of juggling a lot of things right now and trying to pace it in a way that it doesn't get away on us. Because the thing about this, Cole, is that it's not one of these kinds of programs that we can just say, here's your certificate, now, go do it in your community. It requires some care, because we have to honor the spirit of the program and preserve the spirit of the program to ensure that it continues. The knowledge that's contained within the program continues to be held and carried in the way in which it was intended to be. It's a collaborative effort, but it should be, and Marla and I have said many times, our hope, we would love to have someone in every community that can do this, that would be good to go and be able to do this, because it's about capacity building. So reach out to us, let us know what you're looking for, and we'll communicate and let you know sort of what things are happening. And just know that we are just at that capacity building stage where we're trying to figure out how to replicate ourselves. Hey, Marla, what do you think?
Yeah, that part's been tricky.
For Nenqayni, we are continuing with gathering our medicine education, not only with our community members, but with our staff. We're re-recording with Marla and Denise right now and going over slides so that we can bring that information back and hopefully get more staff involved in Nenqayni. We've also partnered with community in Williams Lake and with different First Nations services, and we are going to be hosting Marla and Denise hopefully in June, if COVID allows, to present this to community and to share this with community so that we can get feedback and we can get, hopefully, we're looking towards our health directors from our First Nations communities to come in and to hear this and to bring it onto the land. That's where it belongs. It belongs on the land with the people, with their culture, with their identity, supporting it with their elders involved and their communities involved in creating a continual program, something that will last and continue on for generations. We had a meeting, it just made me think of Jerry Oldman. We had a meeting with him and this amazing elder, and he looked at us and he said, this is like wildfire in the grass. This is what our people need. And so you're going to have to guard it, you know, like you're going to have to make sure it stays, the integrity of it stays. And I think that's our focus right now is to get it out into community, but to get it out in a good way, so that we don't lose the essence of it and so that it remains within the power of the parents and the communities and the lands and the traditions and that knowledge. And it doesn't become prescriptive, and it doesn't become like every other parenting program where you watch a video, answer questions, and you're told you're doing your job wrong as a parent. We want it to stay in relationship. And so Nenqayni is partnering with Denise and Marla and trying to get it out into community, trying to get it land-based. And we're working towards collectively getting it where it belongs with the elders and with the parents in community.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Yeah, we've worked with Elder Jerry a lot at the Learning Circle, so it's really nice to hear those connections continue to deepen, and our mutual kind of connections there. One of the things that I really wanted to highlight here, just take a second to recognize, is the phrase that you guys all kind of threw around here, which was capacity building. I love that piece about the program, and yeah, I can't speak enough to it, but it sounds to me like it's not something that obviously you could just put in a manual, print them out hundreds of sheets at a time, and then ship them to communities. So I can appreciate the desire and the need to maintain the integrity of the program, as you guys are doing now. So that's great. The only other question we had, and I want to take this time, we have about 5-7 minutes left. So if anybody has any last minute questions for anybody here, make sure to throw them in the chat or the Q&A and we'll get to them. But we do have another question. And that one is, so is this program strictly for Indigenous youth development, or can youth of all cultures participate? Yeah, that would be the big question there. And it seems to me like it could adapt to different cultures based entirely on the community that it's going into. And maybe you want to speak a little bit more to that.
Yeah, it is definitely a universally accessible program. And so anyone can do it. And it can be customized really for any community or any culture. I mean, obviously our intention was to develop something that would meet the needs of Indigenous communities. But the principles, the ideas that we are sharing in this, the approach itself is good. That's the beauty of it, is at the center, those theoretical frameworks we're drawing upon, those are transcultural in that they meet a universal human need for relationship, for safety, our universal capacity for resilience and bouncing back from trauma, our universal emotional nature and our need for emotional expression, and how that's intrinsically linked to resilience and how that can only happen in relationship. And so we're talking about universal physiological human needs. And then the customization part is the culture of the people in which it's being delivered to.
Which it should be.
Yeah.
If the principles are truly truly honor what we know about emotion as the context for our health and for our resilience, then it should be applied cross-culturally, as long as each community and culture is respected within those understandings. Yeah. It only makes sense that it moves with the people who are offering the teachings and the knowledge. It's about having a soft heart. It's about having some insight. It's about honoring the place of parents and grandparents when we really distill it down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just add something to that? Because you'll often hear us say in the program, and I actually, one of our beautiful elders from the interior said, you know, Denise, we were all of us sitting around the circle, because sometimes we have caregivers, we have grandparents, we have parents, we have workers in some cases coming to a circle in a community. And I loved how she said, you know what, we're all Indigenous from somewhere. At some point in our history, if we look back far enough, we were all sitting around a fire banging on a drum. Now, it's true, because, you know, the impacts of colonization as early as the, you know, Greeks and Romans was this deep rupture with nature. And so anyone in their history, in their lineage, can look back to their early traditions and find cultural ways of knowing and being that will provide exactly what is needed in terms of healing.
Yeah.
It's a rejoining, it's a reconnecting, and that's what the deep soul wound. You can't have resilience without rupture. You see, resilience is a product of having gone through things. And so it's like it's a healing that is happening in we're talking about in a very meta way, the impacts of colonization, and a return to togetherness and joining back together. And that applies to anybody.
It applies to anybody, because we are wired to do this. We are wired to go through loss and to recover if the conditions are there in which to do so. And so this is just restoring those conditions in their appropriate context in which we're already wired to do it. Yeah. It's so hopeful.
It really is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm projecting a little bit here, but what it sounds to me is like, yes, Gathering Our Medicine absolutely is a program, but what the program is talking about is paradigm shifts, right? We're not talking about, as Angie spoke to, something prescriptive or a step-by-step case, step-by-step basis here. It's really about reconnecting the community with itself, really, with its own cultural identity, with its own history, with the love and care that exists there. So we're really just talking about shifting the paradigm with which we view these relationships, I guess, the concept of caring for youth in communities, I suppose.
The context for healing. Cool. It's like that's the paradigm shift, is that we're shifting how our understanding of the context for healing and what truly facilitates healing. And saying, hey, you know what? You don't have to have a PhD in psychology to facilitate healing. As a matter of fact, what is needed can be found right in the heart of our very own communities, with the people that are there and with the teachings that are there on the land. And it's a beautiful, empowering thing. And that's the idea, is to restore care to its proper place, its most natural place.
Right. Beautiful. Okay, so I know I'm trying to be aware of everybody's time here. I know that I'm probably taking up too much of it. I just wanted to end by, we've received many comments like this, but one from Roberta I wanted to highlight here. I joined this Zoom not knowing this is more of a parent program. I would have loved this 40 years ago. I ventured off reserve to take parenting programs, and she's looking forward to seeing if and when it can be utilized in communities, I assume more broadly speaking. So I think this knowledge has been really impactful for everybody that's been able to join us today. I'm going to do my quick little outro, and I'd love if any of you would like to share some last words here. Thank you all very much from the Learning Circle team here. We really appreciated having everyone here today, as well as everybody that has joined us over Zoom to participate in this conversation. Thank you so much. Coming up, we have sessions throughout February. We have sessions from the Northern Biobank team, as well as some sessions on vaccine efficacy and safety for families and Indigenous people broadly speaking. We'll have an interesting panel on decolonizing sport. So be sure to check out those events on the Learning Circle website. And now I'm going to turn the mic over to Elder Bill, Angie, Marla, Denise, anything you want to end us with here today?
I just want to thank everybody for joining us here today. Other medicine is such a beautiful way of showing our people how to recommunicate with each other. And that's the key point, is being able to communicate with not only from our elders to our parents, but to our youth. And our youth have gone through so much. To get that reconnection with them and to be able to show them a right way of living again, that's what it's all about. So thank you, Cole. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Marla. Thank you, everybody that has been here today, from the bottom of my heart. May you have a great day. Okay.
I just wanted to add something to the cultural piece. When Denise gave us the program, her friend splashed at these amazing drawings, but they're very much coastal drawings. And she said, you know, the point of this is you to embrace it and your elders to add their artworks and their images and their stories. And so it becomes very land-based. So the slides, the artwork in the slides becomes wherever you're from. And it doesn't matter. I've been in contact with someone from New Zealand and someone from Australia regarding this program, actually. And immediately there was this connection and they're like, this would work. This is amazing. And so the cultural piece is whatever culture you're there, you tell it from that perspective. You know, if you were Italian, you would talk about the Feast of Seven Fishes and the importance of that and of that tradition and why we do that and why we see our emotions as a gift. And we had wailing circles and you know, so it doesn't matter what culture you're in. The principle is still the same. It's in relationship. It's in the wisdoms of the past. It's in that sense of knowing and being, and of the parents being the answer for the children. And for the children to look and see that village standing behind them. This is my village. This is who I am. Every radish wants to know its roots. And when they have that culture, they know who they are and they go forward with their head held high and with pride. I know who I am. I know where I come from. I know where I'm going. I may not have all the answers, but the people, my ancestors, everyone behind me is there supporting me. And I know who I am. And that's what we're doing. We're restoring that sense of identity, that sense of knowing, that sense of being. So it doesn't matter what culture you come from, it still applies. And I want to thank you so much for having us here today on behalf of Nenqayni Wellness Center. We're so grateful to be a part of this program and to be invited onto your show. Cole, thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Angie. It's always a pleasure. Love being here with you, Cole, and just having the opportunity to share. So thank you very much.
Kitchi Miigwech, Marcy, thank you. Cole, thank you to Angie and Bill and all of our facilitators. We have this beautiful team who get what Denise and I are doing, and I just want to acknowledge that this is a distillation of Denise's life work, and I just feel honored to be a part of it and part of this community. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Until next time, take care. Bye.